These animatronics are so adorable. Also, on what planet is this movie actually suitable for children?
Dancing on the verge, anyone can love a pretty little mansion. But could you love a haunted house?
Hey Twisted people, it's your Twisted girl here, Chauncey K. Robinson, and today I am doing a spoiler-free review of the new Blumhouse movie, Five Nights at Freddy's. A troubled security guard begins working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. During his first night on the job, he realizes that the night shift won't be so easy to get through. Pretty soon, he will unveil what actually happened at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's adds interesting lore to a pretty overly simple video game, allowing it to go beyond cheap thrills and just simple jump scares. Now, before the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom or fans come at me and tell me it is not an overly simple game, I am not necessarily talking about the lore of the game, which, actually has a very interesting plot. What I'm talking about is the gameplay action of Five Nights at Freddy's, particularly the first game. Now, for those of you who are new to this and didn't know, or kind of knew but never played the game Five Nights at Freddy's, it is essentially a game that came out some years ago, which had a very simple plot. Essentially, you played a security guard working at the now defunct Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And essentially, there's some questionable happenings that happened at this place that is now not actively open. And you essentially have to survive for about 5 nights, hence the name, at Freddy's, as the animatronics tend to come to life at night, and you basically only have the security cameras and the office you're in and light occasionally to essentially try to survive those nights at Freddy's. And throughout this, and I won't get into spoilers because this is spoiler free, and it does keep with a good amount of that lore from the game, you find out why the animatronics might possibly be the way they are, or if nothing else, why this pizza place that is sort of close to demonic Chuck E. Cheese is no longer happening. You discover that mystery. Now, what I mean when I say that the movie Five Nights at Freddy's adds to the lore is that it goes deeper into the who, what, and where of what you have essentially find out in recordings, audio recordings in the game itself. So you get a little bit more of a fuller picture and backstory. And honestly, this could have been a movie that essentially just mimicked the plot of the first game, or more so the action of the first game, right? I'm a security guard and I'm trying to survive 5 nights, and essentially I'm just a solo person and got nothing else going on. What the movie does, it gives the security guard character a plot. It gives them a backstory. It gives them a reason for continuing to go back to a place that is essentially very bad for one's life. And I think what it is able to do is ground such a fantastical story into something that is relatable and more tangible when it comes to the fear factor. And I think this is important because this movie could have very much been very similar to Nicolas Cage's Willy's Wonderland, which sort of got the jump on a movie with animatronics being dangerous and a guy attempting to survive there, right? And so it could have been very similar to that, and it decided to have that to a certain degree, but expand it to include other elements and emphasize more on the mystery of the plot more than just the action and jump scares. Because I will say, I have played Five Nights at Freddy's. I have. And it is creepy if you are playing it, right? Because there's the tension, right? Of like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to close the door. There's this animatronic playing red light, green light with me. Because that's essentially what it is, right? It's like the lights go off, the animatronic comes up quicker, so on and so forth, until it's right there at your door and you're dead. So that's scary if you're playing it and in control. But think about that as a movie. And you being third person watching it happen. Would that be as scary? And even if it was scary initially, would that be scary for a whole hour and a half? Probably not. So I appreciate that the movie decided to lean more in on the mystery and the characters and the lore more than just simply the setup of animatronics coming at you and where are they the whole entire time. With that said, this movie is very slow in the beginning. It takes a minute, I feel, for things to really begin to pop off. And I think if you are a fan of the franchise, you may be like, okay, when are we going to actually get to Freddy's? And it takes a moment to have it so that you are engaging with our protagonist, the security guard and his younger sister. And why would you want to be engaging with them? And I do think in the beginning it is a little questionable if you're going to care about these characters enough to be following them on this journey. But I felt like about 30 minutes into it, you're like, okay, I'm here for the ride, and I actually care what happens to you two. I also appreciated the mystery of the movie, and I know some people will say that it is predictable. What I will say is that if you are someone who goes into a film thinking, let me try to figure out the twist before the twist happens, or the reveal of the mystery before the mystery is revealed, then yes, you probably will figure it out if you are actively trying to figure it out while you're watching the movie instead of just watching the movie. Yes, it's going to be very predictable, but it's not always about the destination. Sometimes it's about the journey. And I do think the mystery journey that you go on in this movie is well worth it. The animatronics are amazing, and they better be, considering this is the kind of movie it is, and they do not disappoint, nor does the scares when they do happen. With that said, I am questioning the PG-13 rating of this film. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think the gore, I think it is on the borderline. It's kind of risque. Now, it doesn't have necessarily blood everywhere, but it is violent enough at times where I'm like, this is PG-13? You sure about that? You sure about that? Or maybe I'm just, as a millennial, at a point where I'm like, were my PG-13 movies like this when I was younger? I don't remember them being like this. My overall grade for Five Nights at Freddy's is a B+. If you are a fan of the franchise, I think you'll actually like this movie for the most part. I think it expands on things. If you are not someone who has ever played the franchise, I think you will definitely like this movie because you're coming to it not knowing the story, not knowing what's the lore behind the pizza place or anything like that. So I think it'll be really new to you and quite enjoyable. Okay, Twisted People, that is my spoiler-free review of Five Nights at Freddy's. Let me know if you're planning on watching it, if you have watched it, and if you agree with my review, let me know, comment down below, and if you've ever played the game. Thanks for watching. Keep it creepy out there.